So, pain, pain, go away. Nice phrase to let your worries run wild, let your pain go away, as the phrase would say. Also, the name of Sugaru Miaki's third novel, written in 2015, such and such. So, again, with these things, I do a short little summary. This guy named Mizo Yugami. He is kind of a loser, and he creates his pen pal by the time he graduates middle school. Her name is Kuriko Hizumi, and they move out to different schools and they send letters to each other. So in this exchange, Yugami gets to lie about his life because he's a social loner, that such and such, and he gets to lie about his life about to Hizumi, tell him how his life is great, and in turn, Hizumi also gets to say things about her life, which is seemingly pretty awesome. Both their lives are very good in the letters and such. But one day, Hizumi wants to ask Yugami out to meet him in real life. There's some things we should be able to tell each other in person. Yugami skips this chance, and like 5 years later, he kind of gets really sad about it and tries to write a letter to her. And again, on the day he tries to meet Hizumi, he kills a random girl through road rage because he was drinking whiskey on that night. And then this girl has a power that lets her, make things in the past not happen to her, like kind of rewind things in time, but she can like delay things from what just happened. She can, like change things as if they did not happened based on how much she desires it. Some specifics are, very vague on that, but basically based on her own feelings. And since she's been killed by him, this girl, we don't know her name, says you have to take responsibility for killing me, like Tsukihime or something. And they go on this Bonnie and Clyde killing spree where this girl who has been abused and by her own family, by a bunch of classmates, she kills a bunch of people in revenge. And Yugami, on the other hand, watches this girl kill and murder like 7 people. And then they eventually go to like kill 17 people. I'll tell you why. That's in the summary. I don't want to like summarize anymore. I don't think it's very critical of me to do it, but so here the review starts. I kind of did a previous take on this, but I want to talk about the story more critically, or just more like my own feelings. So I think the story is the edgiest, obviously the edgiest Sugaru Miaki novel. I think it does work. In the first half of the novel, it almost didn't get me. Why was these murders like taking place? What did they mean for the story? They were unclear. Sure, this random girl who was killing people for revenge, I felt it was, yeah, it's just kind of satisfying her own desires to get revenge. And Yugami, on the other hand, Yugami is the most passive Tsurumanaki main character for the first half. It's just watches her kill people, she helps her kill people, doesn't really do anything by his own hand, with his own hands. Unlike Kusunoki from Sweet as Happiness, who makes his life kind of better, or the guy from Starting Over who finally turns around his life at the end. Mitsuo Yugami really doesn't do anything. Sometimes he thinks about like his pen pal Kuriko Hizumi a while back and how she's doing, that kind of thing. And there's also like this random friend called Shinzo that died a couple months ago, and he thinks about him recently. And then there's a housemate, which he's a really good dynamic with as platonic friends or something. She's a girl. She's also similar, like a loner, a loser, like him. She's also an art student. Don't know what the relevance that is to like this review, but it's a cute dynamic, and that. And I guess you can tell that Yugami's not really a good person because he's so passive and he lets these things happen. And in the middle point of the story, it really loses me a bit when he starts out of nowhere. Says also there's an age gap between this girl and Yugami. She's 17 and he's 22. So there's a strange kind of romantic thing going on where he's like, "Oh, you are so beautiful when you murder people." That's what he says, something like that. And she's kind of taken aback from this. Is like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" And then it's strange because he says this because having her kill people so passionately and so with like vigor of life, ironically, he says it makes him feel alive because she's doing things that makes her feel alive and like murdering people. it's a very strange thing. It came out of nowhere, actually. Frankly speaking, some other people I've talked to also say this. But yeah, and then they go and kill on like 17 more people. Big yikes. And then there's always a Sugaru Miaki gimmick kind of plot twist in the story that contextualizes everything. With Pimping Go Away, it has the best one. I'll tell you why. The plot twist is not just obviously the girl with Yugami is Kiriko Hizumi, obviously. The plot twist is that Hizumi and Yugami have met before. They have met on the date. Hizumi wrote to Yugami trying to get him to meet in person. And from there, it is probably a very tragic, very like wholesome kind of love story. So they're both 17. Very important. At that point, they're both like teenagers and they love living together, they listen to music together, and do a lot of things together. It's very like it's very calming. Despite Hizumi being regularly abused by her father, like once she has Yugami on her side, she thinks it's like it's a fine life she's moving through. You know, she's a girl with a guy she kind of likes. Very strange. They can really get to know each other, and for a amount of time, Hizumi in this past time doesn't really tell Yugami about her actual truth because she's also been lying for the letters, saying her life is great. And then this one time where she drops in this pit, like her fire was stabbed with a piece of glass by her classmates. Yugami comes to save her or just help her out, really, and she finally tells her him everything, and they both really bond together through the like, I guess this fake life they've created through the letters. And from that day on, they can actually live as their true selves, live as their real selves. There's a huge amount of comfort they have in their own lives because they're together now. They're still broken people. They're not really trying to fix each other. They're just with each other. It's nice. It's wholesome, and then it all goes to utter down the drain when one day Hizumi, who changed her name to Akatsuki because her mom remarried. Her stepfather has been really abusive. I didn't talk about much about it, but yeah, extremely abusive, very violent for a Sugaru Miaki novel as such. And she comes back to her home to see her mother beaten to death, and her dad is also stepdad is also beating her. She doesn't play this any mind really. Thinks it's like kind of happening, but he beats her like so severely she starts crawling out the house, and Yugami shows up to check on her. And Yugami, oh yeah, there's a bit of background information there. Uh, Hizumi makes Yugami promise that like if anything goes to hell, Yugami will kill Hizumi if it gets too hard for her. So what Yugami does here is not kill Hizumi. He goes and kills her father. And from this moment on, what Hizumi says is he looks very beautiful doing this, and it finally makes sense. Kind of makes sense why Yugami in like the future also thought the same thing about Hizumi. And from that point on, after in the first timeline after Yugami murdered Hizumi's dad, they go around playing around in this roller coaster in the amusement park. Yeah, amusement park, and then unfortunately Yugami dies in a terrible accident. And from that day on, uh, what was it? Hizumi rewinds time to prevent Yugami's death, but this weirdly ends up having her stay in the same age at 17. And the reason why is really heartbreaking. The reason why is that she would stay in the state that Yugami loved her in forever. And we flash forward in the future where, you realize that Hizumi and Yugami are both dead, and that Hizumi's ability is going to run out and then probably both going to die, or some paradox is going to happen. So, at this point, you come to grapple with the fact that these people fall in love with each other like twice in a row, or thrice in a row, however you count it. And the best part of it is that they've lied about their lives all their life in the letters, but now in that first timeline where they're together, like listen to music, whatever, doing stuff together as high schoolers together, and this second kind of timeline where they are together killing people, they're both very, very real versions of themselves. Now, Sugaru really wants to say both these situations are not ideal. Both these situations are a hole that have been dropped into, and they can't really get out the hole. They can't really get out of this awful situation they both put themselves in. Both of Hizumi's abusive like household and Yugami's just general social reclusivity, that kind of thing. He's just a recluse, that thing. They're both tangled up together, and because they're tangled up together, they really can't escape at the hole. And the way they frame it as not such a bad thing as long as you're with like another person, they're both happy, I guess. Again, at the peak of their happiness, they're at the amusement park in the end, and finally they accept the fact that they've loved each other all this time, even though they're both dead. They regain their memories of the thing because Hizumi and Yugami lost their memories of the thing. And Hizumi returns as 22-year-old version of her, and she asks Yugami, "Do you hate me?" I think he says something along the lines of no. And you come to grapple with the fact that, like, the question being asked in the story is, what things will you do for love? But more precisely, like, how can you be happy and love someone in such an awful situation like that? Like, how do you make the best of it? And I guess Sugamaki's answer is love. Do I think it's a good message? I think it's possible. I think it's a moving story that is written well because of that. When you're in a dark place and you need someone to, rely on, obviously it's good, right? With Sugamaki in the story never really tries to like glorify the act of revenge, and neither does he criticize him for being like bad. He just says revenge is something you do on impulse. It's disgusting, reprehensible act, obviously, and but it is something that deepens the relationship between Hizumi and Yugami. And by the end, they both die. Or at least I like to interpret it as they both die because the paradox is kind of created. Both of them should be dead in a sense, and yeah, they've both been through so much pain, so much suffering, and there have been, but all this time they've been loving each other unabashedly, openly loving each other. You could say it's a toxic relationship, but they were both quite happy about it. Well, more like being with each other. It's companionship that makes them comfortable. And I think the ending is very hard. The ending is here's what happens. There was this one scene where Hizumi just came back from before all of this. Hizumi came back from Hizumi and Yugami committed this big murder where they killed this dude. He built up a lot of resistance, and Hizumi is hurt, right? So what Yugami does is basically just put his hand on her wound and say, "Pain, pain, go away." Really stupid. They both laugh about it and say, "Ha, that's never gonna work." Yeah. And then one more thing before I say the ending of the thing. They really found each other beautiful when they were bloody and on stuff. I think because not only did it make themselves feel more alive when they saw someone they loved doing something they were passionate about, it was a way of them to help each other find life within within these passionate acts. I know it's a strange way of saying it, of saying you can convey love through like murder, or this a murderous like appearance that makes people you love happy. And in a twisted way, yeah, it's true. Seeing people you love do things they like love doing, it makes you feel better about yourself. And as a lonely person or something like that, I see the appeal in that. And Tsugumaki for sure makes it important for you to not acknowledge that, yeah, you should be try and be happy within this whole. Try your best and make the best out of it. And that's the moral of the story. The moral of the story is if you can take these extremes to be happy with someone inside a very bad situation, then go do it. It's not like virtue signaling or thing, but it's a very tragic story. Pain Pain Go Away. It's very edgy, not really gratuitous, but just overall miserable story to talk about. And by the ending is here. I've said by the end like 10 different times. The ending is now Hizumi is 22 years old. She's in her present form. They finally say, "Oh, we've loved each other all this time." And Yugami puts his hand on her head and says, "Pain, pain, go away," as if to wash Hizumi and, in a way, Yugami's pain from this world. And that's why I think they both died yet. They've spent all this time killing people, being happy, and the best they can do is just die happy, maybe. It The reason it works better than 3 Days of Happiness, in my opinion, is just it's so brutal. It's so brutal in this message. The pain may go away in itself. It's not a phrase that like brings any happiness. It's just your pain will be away. There's no much pain. The pain ends. Perhaps it's a grim ending for them. Perhaps you think it's an optimistic ending for them. I think it's just an ending. It's sad, yeah. With all the happiness and they've been through each other, with like kindness they've interacted and given each other, perhaps a painless end together is not the worst thing that could happen to them. I rambled on. I'm feeling about the throw up or something. Sugaru is a writer. Really is a writer. Good writer. Sometimes I feel like the pain's too much for me. I want to go away too, but I mean, the world isn't built for lonely people like us. That's fine. To whoever looks at this video or whoever doesn't look at this video, yeah, because I'm not getting any like engagement or something. I just hope you're as lonely as you want yourself to be. Wanting loneliness is a very strange thing. You have to take control of your own life to recognize that you want to be lonely. But if it really suits you, be happy or be lonely. Nemesis out. Do I feel sick because I'm talking about bad subject matter, or do I feel sick because I'm actually sick? Who knows? See you next time. Nemesis out. Long video, isn't it? I wish my pain would just go away.